Here are your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
UFC 282, it marked the UFC's last pay-per-view of the 2022 calendar year. Lots of finishes, but we also had some controversy. Light heavyweight championship remains vacant. Magomed Ankalaev, the UFC's light heavyweight dark horse, took on former champion Jan Blachowicz. And let's just say one of the two contenders walked out of that cage saying, I don't even know if I want to fight for this promotion anymore if you guys are going to be judging my fights like this. I did what I needed to do to win. Where's my belt? And along the same theme, if you're a big fan of the UFC's most popular scouser, we're talking about Paddy Pimblett. I think we had a little bit of daylight robbery over here, but we're going to talk about it. We're not going to call anything official. We're going to take a look at some judges' decisions. We're going to look at the people's vote, and we're going to compare and contrast, But breaking it down with me, as always, the New Mexico native, the Santa Fe bomber himself, AJ, brother. Listen, man, this is a bad night for some of the most popular names in the sport. However, this was a pretty fantastic card to kind of like end the year, right? 10 finishes in a row. I feel like nobody's talking about that, but how you feeling, brother?
All the finishes are being overshadowed by the controversy, Derick. I had a great night, man. I thought it was a great night of fights. Folks, you can see down low, I did lose one more fight, so we're down 4 fights going into this next week, which makes the next week even more interesting. But for this week of fights, man, it's kind of as weird and as interesting as everything ended. You had a little bit of everything, so you can't be too mad. Like you said, Derick, 10 finishes, a bunch of subs, a bunch of KOs. And then we end in the two, like you said, two of the weirdest decisions we've had in quite a long time. Yeah. One, arguably a daylight robbery. Get your guns, get your mask. Paddy the Batty is hitting some banks around town. And then the kissing the cousins, man. You end in a draw. Weird night of fights, man. I'm excited to break it all down with you, brother. How you feeling?
I am feeling good, man. And just to kind of point it out for those who are just listening and not watching, scoreboard below, 143 and 81 am I, 139 and 85 for my man AJ. So we did say on the last show, we were more or less like, hey, listen, folks, this either is going to be an insurmountable lead or you're going to tie things up and things are going to be interesting. We never really took into consideration this middle ground that we're in, where it's still very much alive. There's still very much cards on the table right here. So we definitely have our work cut out for us next week. But like I said, it was a great night of fights, man. We had the 18-year-old Raul Rojas Jr. get the, dominant first round submission over Jay Perrin. Really just ragdolled a grown man like that. That was pretty fantastic. Jairzinho Rozenstruik, the resurgence. Edmund, the golden boy Shabazi in the resurgence. Chris Curtis, the action man. Listen, gets the TKO finish over Joaquin Buckley. Lots to talk about here, but before we jump into anything else, folks, if you have not subscribed yet, I'm going to urge you right now. We're over 460 subscribers. I said I'll level with you guys. Let's get to 475 or so. AJ is going for 500. Either way, hit that subscribe button, share the show with your fight friends, and you already know what time it is. Without any further ado, let's talk about how we did last night. Let's get it. All right, my man. So a little funky scoreboard, I guess you could say, or results tally. Let's talk about the Bloody Water podcast consensus picks. We had 2 of them, Magomed Ankalaev and Dricus Du Plessis, and we hit on one of them, man. We hit on the Du Plessis pick, man. We said when it goes bad for these veteran fighters like a Darren Till, it tends to go bad. It did go for him. Did go a rough go, this weekend. However, the Magomed Ankalaev, man, we can't be mad at us for that one. That was a split draw. Nobody necessarily saw that one coming. A lot of people literally, okay, I was typing it up. I was like, oh, easy win for Ankalaev. He wrapped it up, comeback, character, grit, and then it ends in a draw. How devastating. All right, Paddy Pimblett versus Jared Gordon. Now, AJ, we're going to talk about this in depth, but in a 1 or 2 sentences, I will just say I do absolutely believe Jared Gordon won this fight. I think that was the live dog of the night. I think that was the smart pick of the night. However, Paddy the Batty Pimblett is the UFC's cash cow, and you got to protect the legacy. What do you think, bro?
We've said it once, Derick, and we said it once, you said it a million times. You do not leave it to the judges because they're going to give it to the cash cow regardless. And unfortunately, I think any way that Jared, or if there was a slight sliver that Paddy might have won this fight, the judges were giving it to him. It's rough. It's a rough look for Jared Gordon, man. You got to feel for the dude, man.
100%, but I think he's taking it in stride, so we'll talk about that more in a second. Santiago Ponzinibbio over the 5-day short notice replacement opponent, Alex the Great White Morono. AJ, man, we always say it, the short notice guys, first round looks good. Come round 2 and 3, that's when a legitimate fight camp comes in. Ponzinibbio got the dub, got the TKO, and then Ilia Topuria gets the submission finish over Thug Nasty Bryce Mitchell, man. This was one of those where it's just, at the end of the day, both of these dudes could have won, but Bryce Mitchell just a little too reliant on the grappling, didn't have enough in the stand-up. Topuria shined right there. Anything surprise you? Crazy?
No, I mean, not really, because of how Bryce Mitchell was getting outshined on the feet, and then you fall into a bad submission. It's a rough look seeing Bryce Mitchell defeated by submission. She's like, damn, somebody really put it to him, and big win for going across the board. What's the name? Topuria. Thank you. I kept wanting to say Shabazi, but I knew that was wrong. Topuria. Thanks, Derek.
Yeah, bro. I'm just gonna say this, man. This could say like, yeah, it's rough for Bryce Mitchell to see him lose in that fashion. I'm gonna look at it from the other way. This goes to show just how good Topuria is, man. So we'll leave it at that. We'll break down the very rough night of prop bets for us here in just 1 second. But for the money line, 3-1-1 was I, 2-2-1 for my man AJ, counting that split draw right there. Over and unders, 1-3 for me, and 3-1 for my man AJ. So my man AJ was on the board for the over and unders. Now let's take a look. You never want to see this, man. 0-5, rough go for us. I'll just say this, man. We could have done a lot better, but if you look at the asterisks next to some of these names, that's the thing. It's like we win it on the money line. It's hard to predict how these things are gonna go. I'm not gonna lie to you, AJ. I feel like I got robbed on the Jared Gordon decision prop bet victory. I feel like I should have got that one, but it is what it is, folks. It is the end of the year. We're gonna have to regroup, come back better for the last card of the year, but we'll definitely come back better next year for sure. All right. With that being said, I'm gonna show it to you one more time. That is the results. That's the recaps. I am up by 4 picks. We got a lot to fight for, and do not forget, folks, what we're fighting for. Shiny gold belt. We'll show that a little bit later. Now, let's get straight into it, man. Without any further ado, let's break down some fights.
Have you seen that replay, buddy? Your head was bouncing around like a pinball machine.
Time for some main card breakdown, courtesy of your hosts, Derick G and AJ. All right. AJ, Dana White was very unhappy with this fight, after the fact, right? It says, yeah, the main event kind of sucked. The main event judging kind of sucked. Obviously, you have a decision after, a night of bangers, finishes all over the place. But I'll tell you what, man, for a split second, like 2-3 rounds into this fight, I said, Jan Blachowicz is doing it again, man. Like, this was Magomed Ankalaev's perfect opportunity, but Blachowicz, he might not be the fastest, he might not be the most technical, but boy, does he hit hard. And when he was beating up both legs of Magomed Ankalaev, I was like, oh my God, yeah, of course this is the game plan. This is the mobile guy who moves around too much, picks you apart at distance, take away the wheels. And he did that. However, Ankalaev showed some grit, some real championship mettle and grit to be able to come back from that. Were you really thinking, like, come round 2, round 3, you're like, wow, Blachowicz is really about to be the champion again?
Not really, Derek, to be honest with you, man. As much of a good fight Blachowicz was putting up, it still gave me good hope to see Magomed Ankalaev looking strong in those exchanges. Yeah, he's, like you said, he's getting his legs chewed up. He's getting beat up a little bit. Jan was coming on strong, but Magomed never seemed to falter, never seemed to have that bit of a moment where he even doubted himself. So, yeah, sure, Jan looked amazing in the fight, especially in the early rounds, but I still had big hope for Ankalaev. Still think he won the fight, so it's rough to see a draw go through this one, man. But as much as, like I said, I wasn't surprised, or I wasn't thinking Jan was going to win that fight. It was good to see him come back and fight as hard as he did, because this was is like you said, Derek, or as rough it is as it is to see a split decision draw, however this unfolded. It's still good to see that the old champ is still fighting that hard, still putting up a big fight against a dark horse like this, where he could have been ran away with. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, absolutely. But like I said, I really do think it just came down to that was the big difference. Is the power of Blachowicz is just such an equalizer that Ankalaev has to play the touch and go game, right? I don't think Blachowicz was ever in a situation where he was ready to get out of there, right? There were some big punches when Magomed was able to kind of like cuff his arm and use that kind of half guard position, just smash his face in, ground and pound. Like, that was a little rough, but there was nothing where I was like, oh, this dude's about to go out, right? So this was a very impressive performance by Magomed Ankalaev, but like I said, for Blachowicz, damn near 40 years old, bro, like trying to get the belt back, impressive performance. Now, this is what it comes down to. We need to just do a little bit of revisionist history, right? Looking back at it, rounds 4 and rounds 5, I think it's safe to say Ankalaev really came on. He was pushing the pressure. He was getting the takedown time and time again. He won rounds 4 and round 5. Now, the question is, what happens with round 1? Because we know Blachowicz won round 2 and round 3. So what happens with round 1? If you give it to Ankalaev, he should have been the clear victor, right? If you give it to Blachowicz, he should have been the clear victor. But how do we end up in this split draw type scenario? And this is why here, AJ. If you look at 2 of the cards, Derek Clearly and Sal D'Amato, I'm actually going to pull them up right now really quickly. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but ultimately you will notice there are 2 10-8 rounds awarded, right here, 10-8 in round 5 on Derek Cleary and Sal Diamato's card in favor of Magomed Ankalaev, right? Now, my question is, how about rounds 2 and rounds 3? When you're chewing this dude's leg apart, right? This dude can barely move. We're not considering any 10-8s right there. We get a 47-47 here. We do get Ankalaev 48-46 over here. But then Michael Bell, man, you give Blachowicz all 3 of rounds 1, 2, and 3, and only give rounds 4 and rounds 5 to Ankalaev. At the end of the day, man, more than these are important, what I want to show is this. I mean, I don't know how many picks this is, bro, but this is like 15, 20 picks all in favor for the people's choice. Magomed Ankalaev, only 2 people saw it in favor of Jan Blachowicz. So now that you have that information at hand right there, I mean, realistically, is this a robbery? Was this a really close fight, or did the judges just screw up?
I think the judges just screwed up on this one, man. As much as I feel like Ankalaev should have won that fight, I don't really want to call it robbery because of the weird. You don't leave it to the judges. It wasn't necessarily the slobber knocker of a fight that we wanted on our hands, and there's a weird back and forth with the judges, man. So like, as much as I want to shout robbery, I feel like this one's a little more justified. Like I'm not sad with the decision. Obviously, it's a little disheartening or unsettling to always have a draw, but I'm not shouting and screaming rematch and clamoring from the rooftops to have this fight again. So I'm not really too upset. Are you, Derek?
Robert, it's something I'm still processing, I think, man, but I'm glad you hit that. You said, this is not something I'm really clamoring to see a rematch on. And I thought that was a little funny because Jan Blachowicz, directly after the fight, he looks over at Ankalaev and he's all like, hey, rematch? And Ankalaev looks at him, he's like, yeah, no, bro. Like, I just whooped your ass. What are we talking about, right? And then this is the controversy from here, bro. So let's actually get into the nitty gritty of what makes this a popular story. Magomed Ankalaev, through his translator, right? Of course, after the fight, he says, I did everything that I needed to do to win this fight. Where is my belt? Give me my belt. If this is how you're going to treat me, I don't even know if I want to fight for this company anymore, if I want to fight for this promotion. So you have the light heavyweight contender, a dark horse of your division, a dude who's basically smashing through everybody, just showed championship mettle and grit. Say, I don't even know if your company has enough integrity for me to even want to fight for you anymore, for me to even want to have your belt. And then, AJ, this is what happens. This is the weirdness that happens. Jan Blachowicz goes back and forth between oh, yeah, he should have won, to, well, I don't know, I'm a little loopy right now. You shouldn't interview me because I got to watch the fight back. To then, this is what I want to talk about here, AJ. Let me bring up this breaking news. Because we got something to talk about, brother. Dana White announces Glover Teixeira versus Jamal Hill will fight for the vacant title, the vacant light heavyweight championship at UFC 283 in Brazil. So if you just look at it, man, at the end of the day, he says this is a terrible main event championship fight right here. And it comes down to it. See, Jamal Hill, he said, give me Anthony Smith. They're giving him Glover Teixeira. This is the point. Dana White was so disappointed with all of this that he says, we're going to give it to two different fighters. Now, here's my question, and I'm going to let you respond here. Do you think any of this was in part of Magomed Ankalaev saying, him openly, publicly questioning the integrity of the UFC, even though they have no control over who referees fights? That's the athletic commission. Do you think that had something to do with them just saying, all right, give it to Hill, give it to Teixeira, and move on? What do you think?
If history has proven anything, Derek, Uncle Dana holds grudges, and I think this had a lot to do with it, man. You're coming in, you have the support, and Russia is taking over the UFC, and you come in, and then you start clowning, you start talking shit about, and like you said, the judges have absolutely nothing to do, but on the media, it seems like you're pushing things more towards this is the UFC's fault. So this seems like Uncle Dana really just digging into you, like, oh, okay, your fight was terrible, especially when when the boss is using actual words like that, like terrible, disgusting, all these words that really don't look good as a fight. Anytime you're trying to get a fight promoter to promote you as a fighter, you don't want to be hearing those words. 100%. This seems, because this is left field, man. Even when the cameras are off, we were talking about this. My mind is blown. This is a left field decision, literally out of nowhere. Uncle Dana says, "Fuck it, I'm giving it to Jamal Hill and Glover." Like Jamal Hill out of nowhere. I understand the Glover pick, it makes a lot of sense. You got to do it. You got to do one for the old dog. But this seems a little spiteful, Derek. Do you think so as well, or is this a purely business decision move?
I thought you knew what you were getting yourself into with the Magomed Ankalaev fight. This dude's never really a slobber knocker top fighter, right? He's a technical fighter who picks his opponents apart to get a victory. For him to not be happy with that, I'm very surprised with. But at the end of the day, yeah, I think this is a little. I think at the end of the day, we might not see Magomed Ankalaev fight in the UFC anymore. Like, if this dude, you're not even going to give him a rematch, you're not even going to give him another title opportunity. You're just going to say, yeah, you probably should have won the fight, but nah, get out of here. Like, I don't know, folks. Let's wrap it up with this one for the main event right here, man. This was a split draw. There is still uncertainty. This ruins everybody's timeline. But at the end of the day, this does buy Yuri Prochazka a little bit more time before he's going to be pressured back into, getting back in action from that injury. So, no winner here. The dark horse of the light heavyweight championship, my pick for many years now, Magomed Ankalaev, comes up short somehow, some way. What a weird night, man. All right, let's talk about an even weirder situation. Paddy the Baddy Pimblett, he pulled down the Scully and he says, stick him up, put it in the bag because I'm walking away with the cash, man. Jared Gordon, he basically outclassed Paddy Pimblett, man, for 2 of 3 rounds at the very least. But if you're looking at the final count, Paddy Pimblett did outstrike Jared Gordon 63 to 58 in terms of significant strikes. But when you look at the trajectory, if you look at the control time, if you look at just the ring generalship, I think Jared Gordon, man, just kind of put a clinic on Paddy Pimblett. And if we were questioning his chin before, he does have a massive chin, but this dude gets hit a lot, bro. Like, he was getting popped all over the cage. Left hook, right hand, left hook. It didn't matter. Even with the size discrepancy, reach advantage, it didn't matter. Jared Gordon was doing what he needed to do to win. At the end of that fight, when it was getting announced, and you saw Paddy Pimblett excited, happy, hand raised in victory, were you at any point like, come on, bro, the facade got to end at a certain point? Or do you think he was truly legitimately confident and believed that he was going to win that fight?
I don't know how you can anyone can be truly wholly confident going into those judges, man, especially how we've seen through years and years of watching the sport. So I think it was a little bit more of a bravado, a little bit more of a show. You're going in, you have to be the, Paddy the Baddy, the superstar, the cash cow. And I think there's a little bit more of that, man, because I don't know, Derek. I know we're going to pull up the cards because I will be hard pressed if more than 5 judges gave that fight to Paddy, because this was as much as this was a good fight, a close fight. And I don't know if this weighs into it, Derek. You're gonna have to tell me too if this weighs into a little bit of your decision. When a guy comes in and says he's gonna have a breakout performance, he's gonna smash this dude. This dude can't hold, can't even hold my jock strap. You're coming in, you're talking all this shit, and then you have a decision. I think you lost the fight even more. Like, in my mind, that just, for me, you're talking all that big game. You come in here, you underperform. The guy looks really good. He has a lot of control time. Sure, you outstrike him, but this dude does a lot of damage to you. I feel like you lose the fight even more in my mind, but obviously that doesn't go into the judges. Derek, does that play into your mindset going into this as well? Like, I feel like, to me, Paddy the Baddy lost the fight as well as lost the extra fight after. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so I'll touch on the other part first. Like, in terms of, like, the externals, right? Yeah, it was a bad week for Paddy Pimblett. You get 10-7 by Ariel Helwani, right? You get called out as a liar, just as a dude just making shit up randomly. Then Ilia Topuria at the press conference is like, dude, I'm going to whoop your ass. You're too scared to fight me. And then you fight Jared Gordon, say you're going to knock him out in the first round, say you submitted him twice when you rolled back in 2018, you get controlled, get taken down 3 times, controlled for 6.5 minutes, and basically everybody in the world thought that Jared Gordon won, because when I pull this up right here, you will see, even worse than Blachowicz Ankalaev, not a single person picked for Paddy Pimblett. You have like 30 27s for like 10 people, everybody else 29-28 across the score for Gordon. Actually, you had one person, Dan Urban, couchside judges. All right, come on, armchair quarterback from right here for sure. But listen, brother, I'm just saying, this is what I'm going to say right here. Bad, terrible week for a Paddy Pimblett. And when you're looking at how the judges scored it, man, like, they couldn't even agree on what rounds like Paddy won. You got 10 first and second round for Pimblett, second and third round for Pimblett, and then you have first and second round for Pimblett again. Like, you can't even agree on that. So at the end of the day, rough stretch for Paddy Pimblett. He did get the win, and now he is addressing it. This is the question at hand. He's doing the thing that he should do. He's really taking the sugar show approach and saying, I don't care what you say. I won the fight. I'm 4-0 in the UFC, and if you're telling me that I lost, then you're a hater. And it's really easy, AJ, I think, to dismiss people by simply just like saying, hey, well, you're a hater, whatever, I won. Because at the end of the day, on paper, he did win, and that is true. And we're going to forget about this in 6 months when he fights again, because at the end of the day, on paper, he won. So this is my question to you. Everyone said Jared Gordon was this hand-picked opponent, that UFC was setting Paddy Pimblett up so he can get this big victory and he can get the star power and all that first pay-per-view. What do you think now, man? Has the rub for Paddy Pimblett worn off massively because he looked terrible in this performance in comparison to the expectations going in. What do you think?
Yeah, man. It seems like it has. I feel like the luster, the sheen of the Paddy Pimblett has kind of fallen off a little bit. You know, the gimmicky of the haircut and all these things coming in, all the big game, all the talk, all this stuff has kind of lost a little bit of its shine. And I feel like at the same point, a lot of the diehard fans are really also kind of falling off the Paddy the Batty train as well. Good news for him, he's always going to have the casuals. He's always going to have the dudes that are willing to drink beer and put the wig on and shout for the cameras. So he's always going to have a draw. But I think a lot of the hardcores, you really start to lose a little bit, not necessarily respect, but you start to fall fall in line, and we start to really see where Paddy is kind of aligning himself as a fighter. So sure, he does look a little bit, like I said, unpolished or not as devastating as he was, but does he also lose the same of that kind of stuff I'm talking about for you too, Derick, or is this just me?
I think in the eyes of the odds makers, things are going to change massively for his upcoming fights, man. We just see right now he's not ready for a top 10 guy, not really ready for a top 15 guy at this point. If he can't get past Jared Gordon, he can't, and we have said Jared Gordon, this unranked guy who was going to be his toughest test, and this was his toughest test so far, but it's just like the inability to really do anything effective necessarily. Like, he had to use these big explosive motions, but he was getting controlled, man, getting outstruck, everything. It was rough. He did outstrike him on the feet, like number wise, but when you watched it, the eye test, you're like, wow, Gordon is clapping this dude clean time and time again. Shout out to that chin though. Paddy Pimblett, the saga is to be continued. But I will just say, man, also you're the biggest, baddest dude. Everyone came to watch you perform, and you were the first decision on the card. So that's another thing right there. But Jared Gordon is taking it in stride, and he says, listen, I got robbed, but I do know God's plan. Good things are going to come out of this. Shout out to Jared Flash Gordon. All right, man. Short notice, Santiago Ponzinibbio was slated to fight Robbie Lawler, a southpaw, on 5 days' notice. He gave an orthodox fighter out of Fortis MMA who's tough as hell, very studious, very sharp mentally. And Alex Morono looked good, bro. He looked good in that first round. I was actually worried. I was like, man, he's putting it on Ponzinibbio. I was surprised here, AJ, because I wasn't actually surprised. I thought that Alex Morono, the one thing that could switch this thing up is that he's going to start using that jiu-jitsu, start wrestling a little bit, you know what I mean, and start attacking the ground game. Never did that. Stand-up war, which ended up seeing him, round 3, when Ponzinibbio says that's when I start figuring out the fight, my timing starts, being a little bit sharper, and then I start landing, and, he got it on. Alex Morono, he finished him, bro. That's surprising. Was it worth it on the great white Alex Morono, on his part? Was it worth it to take this fight on 5 days' notice?
I think so, Derick. I don't know if it was just me and the people I was watching the fight with, but I thought Morono was winning this fight, man. He was winning this fight, at least in my mind. I might have to go back and watch it again because, like I said, it could be a little biased going for Morono. But I thought he was winning this fight until he wasn't. He was looking good. He was walking him down. He was landing the bigger of the shots, looking like he was hurting Ponzinibbio. And then you're right, Derick, round 3 comes in. Ponzinibbio really starts to put it on him, really starts to have the kind of Ponzinibbio fight we're used to. And Morono eats a rough one, man. Overhand right, puts him to sleep. I still think it was a great call for Morono on a 5 days notice because he looked sharp, man. He showed that if you're in there, you're training, you're staying consistent, you're doing the things you need to do in the gym, you can make reads all day long. And sure, you lost the fight, but I feel like he had a good showing and still won a lot of fans. Derick, you feel the same way?
Yeah, I think he definitely won a lot of fans here. I mean, I'm still a big fan of him, and I think in part why he took this fight, he said he was like, listen, I think I'm trying to rub shoulders with the bosses because I want to fight on that Houston card in March or whenever it is next year. And he was all like, if this is what I got to do, this is what I got to do. You got to think Dana White came up to him and said a little, we don't know what he said, but said a little something to him after the fight. So, when you do a favor for the boss, you're going to get rewarded back. What does it mean to you that the eye test, it looked like Morono won, but he was outstruck all 3 rounds, and he ended up being outstruck by about 30 strikes in total for the fight?
Yeah, and to me personally, like I said, I think it's a little bit of a biasy thing, but I thought I had Morono winning the power. Every shot that Morono had, he definitely looked like Ponzinibbio felt it a little more. Mm-hmm. But I'm not surprised that Ponzinibbio outstruck him because that is a Ponzinibbio trait. This dude is throwing pressure all day long.
Absolutely, and it's good for Ponzinibbio to get back in the win column. This is his first win since 2021 after coming against bad split decision losses, man, to Jeff Neal and Michel Paeta. So I think we're in a good spot right here. Not a lot to say overall because, like I said, the stakes have changed massively. You're supposed to fight Robbie Lawler, then you get Alex Morono. Right now, it's still this middle ground for Ponzinibbio, like where are we going? But I will say very valiant performance. In that third round TKO, man, it's not often you see a Alex Morono get finished. And I'm actually going to look it up real quick. This was only the second time he's been finished in his UFC tenure. The only other time came against Chaos Williams back in 2020 when he just starched him in that first round. So big win by the Argentine Dagger. All right, man. For this next fight right here, AJ, this is going to be one. I know me and you were big fans of Darren Till, the gorilla, right? But this is another remembrance, right? Just the same way that we had to talk about who's our man that just retired, Frankie Edgar, the legend, right? The answer, Frankie Edgar. And we say, listen, he's got a little something in him, something left in the tank, and he's going to get this thing done. When it starts to go a little downhill for some of these veteran fighters and you're going against the new crop, sometimes it just doesn't go good. And this was another situation right here for Darren Till. Now, are we surprised to see that Dricus Du Plessis submitted him in the third round? I'm not the most surprised here. I thought the TKO finish would come, especially because any other referee in the world probably would have stopped the fight in the first round when Du Plessis gassed himself out, just smashing Darren Till's face in. What do you make of the strategy that Darren Till, being in a compromised situation, ground and pound, spent a little more energy, especially in the eyes of the commentary, giving thumbs up to the referee and being like, hey, I'm good, versus actually intellectually defending himself and trying to get to a better position?
My mind was blown. The fact that Darren Till would take time instead of any sort of defense at all, take time to look at the ref, give you a thumbs up mid getting punched in the face. It blew my mind for the fact that this dude, instead of just blocking, intelligent, defending himself, rolling, getting chest to chest, doing any sort of thing, even hitting an Imanari roll, doing anything to get out and better your position, this dude decides to smile and give the ref a thumb up as he's eating a punch to the mouth. Blows my mind, man. And this is a rough fight for Till, man. I even the guys or the people I was watching the fight with, man, I wanted Till to win so bad. And you just saw him go throughout, just start crumbling and off to a rough start too, man. Any other judge in the world would have declared this, stopped that fight after the dude ate like 37, 40 punches to the face, undefended, unchecked, anything at all, just giving the thumbs up as your only saving grace. And then just start to really look good. And to Till's credit, his chin held up. And he was looking good until he really wasn't. You start to see those old tendencies really start to falter. I think it was a bad move, giving the thumbs up mid-punch. Derek, what about you, man?
Yeah, it was rough, man, because at one point in the first round, it came to a strike count of 60-0 in favor of Dricus Du Plessis. And, yeah, man, it was just the game plan. You have to get better with the grappling. This is another question that I have was, what's up with your boy Hamzat, man? You know, are you guys putting in those rounds in camp? I don't know, man. It's tough because the other point is that it does make sense. Du Plessis, he's just a larger man. Like, he's a big middleweight, and Darren Till is a welterweight that moved up to middleweight, right? This is what it comes down to for me, man. Darren Till, he showed great grit and able to come back when Du Plessis gassed himself out. He was tired, but this is the same story. Low volume for Darren Till, and it's kind of the same. Everything is a setup for the left cross. And at a certain point, you do have to start mixing it up. Du Plessis, that's exactly what he did. Mixed it up. 6 takedowns, 86 total significant strikes, multiple submission attempts. At a certain point, like, this dude's going for like footlocks and shit. Like he was really mixing it up. Darren Till, though I was impressed with his comeback performance, we do have to also take into consideration, commentary team was saying that there's a potential he might have blew his knee out in this fight again. So this is another testament to when it goes bad, generally speaking, it goes bad. You can cut no corners. You can do all the work that it takes. You can literally go straight Goggins mode, and a bad thing can still happen to you in your career. Does that mean that you give up? Absolutely not. That just means that Darren Till's trajectory has shifted, because I do believe he's 1-5 in his last 6 fights. And I think the trajectory has truly shifted to how he said it, Brandon Moreno style. I might not be champion right now, not today, maybe not tomorrow, but one day I will be the champion. I think Darren Till, he's still got shelf life, man. I'm a big fan of this guy, but Dricus Du Plessis, too big, too strong. Not necessarily too fast, but a little too well-rounded, and he got the job done. So let's flip it on its head. For Dricus, I mean, you got to be really excited for this guy, man. This is the biggest win of his career, gets you into the top 10 of the middleweight division. Is this guy, does he have the tools that it takes right now to really make a mark in the top 5 of the middleweight division currently?
I don't know about currently, Derek. It's a big task to be taken on by Dricus, especially when you were basically gifted or you had a fight where you should have lost. You know, you gas out, you get tired. He was giving Till all the info and all the weapons to win this fight. But you got lucky. You learned a lesson, and hope to God you never gas yourself out in a fight like that again. And you actually, or the judge gives you, or the referee gives you a finish, because I feel like a lot of people would have called that fight, and it would have been a good look for Du Plessis. But he was able to get away with one of the scariest things as a fighter, and that's being exhausted in the cage, unable to defend yourself. And luckily for him, he wasn't put in a situation where he really did. He took round 2 off, but he wasn't in a situation where it really hurt him, losing the gas and draining himself. But I think it was a big winning lesson for him. So does he have the skills to be a top 5 fighter right now? I don't think so. But very, very soon, he's going to be fighting those guys. And with the win on Till like this, and with the win where he suffered a lot of animosity, a lot more than he probably should have, I think this is a big stepping stone for the Du Plessis career.
Yeah, you know what? I'll say this. He's shown now twice that he can really go and push himself to that 3-round distance. I mean, he looked kind of like this in his last fight against Tavares, too. Just looked rough. It's like, he breathes out of his mouth. He says, don't mind that. My nose doesn't work. That might be a problem, too. You might need to get that fixed so you can have a little more cardio. But you're a fighter, so you never really want to do that while you're still actively a fighter. The point is, man, yeah, I'm not super impressed in terms of the ability to really go 3 rounds time in and time out, but I am really impressed that a big win over Darren Till, man, this is not just like some guy. This is Darren Till. This is a dude, former title challenger right here. Big win by Dricus Du Plessis, and I look forward to seeing more of him in the future. Now, this fight had a little bit of heat on it, man, but this is like, I'm going to go back to the very beginning when we were talking about the recap a little bit. Bryce Mitchell getting submitted, looks bad on Bryce Mitchell because you say, man, you're this grappler guy, you put people in twisters, you're thug nasty, cook them to the bone, you got submitted by Topuria. I beg to differ. I just think that Topuria is simply that good, man, and people are now finally going to have to put that respect on his name. Every time it hits you, it sounds like there's a car crash there. When it comes to the grappling, it's really difficult to take Topuria down. And when Bryce Mitchell was able to get Topuria down, it's not like he's just a fish out of water. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu right here. So this dude's dangerous, perfect combination of every tool that you need to be successful. And I do think Topuria will be a future champion in this division specifically, man. What did you make of this? Like, how high are you on Topuria after this? And do you think Bryce Mitchell had a bad performance, or that the striking needs to improve a little bit?
Massive win for Topuria, and just visually, Derek, like you said, I see Bryce Mitchell losing by submission, and whether you watch the fight or you're not, you look at that and you're like, damn, like Topuria must be the real deal. And I feel like in this fight, he proved to be that exact thing, man. He is the real deal. Stock grew a bunch, man. High on Topuria all day long, because yeah, you won the fight. You got a submission on a dude who's the submission specialist, but you looked great in every aspect of doing it. I don't think this was an off night for Bryce Mitchell. I think he just needs to really double down on the striking, get the fundamentals right, so that way you're not just this one-dimensional fighter that people only have to worry about a certain thing, and when you get outskilled in that one certain thing, you don't really have anything else to offer. Where Topuria, on the other hand, this dude is well-rounded across all boards of the fight game, even strategy-wise, reading-wise, everything there. As I think this is a spot, like what's the like a breakout performance, or an on-spot performance for Topuria, and a rough loss for Bryce Mitchell right there, Derek. Do you feel the same way, or you see something different right here?
No, like I said, I'm super high on Topuria. I do think Bryce Mitchell will, of course, be back, but I think you might need to step up the efforts in terms of your training. And I'm not saying that like his training isn't sufficient right now. This dude was formerly undefeated before this, but I mean, like, maybe going to a larger camp, right? Maybe leaving Arkansas and going to one of these big camps to try to like get working with the best of the best. Like I said, Topuria, this is just a tough matchup from the onset, man. Like, this dude is super good. He went up a weight class, still knocked out dudes over there. I honestly think you match him up with Paddy right now, Paddy's going to be in a world of hurt against Topuria. But I think Bryce Mitchell will absolutely be back. Sometimes that's all you need. That's the catalyst to make you better. You need that first loss, and then you move forward there. But once again, I do think Topuria, instantly, you're a top 10 fighter, and now things are going to get really, really, really interesting, especially given if Volkanovski, if he could pull off the miraculous and he could win a light heavyweight champion, or the lightweight championship against Islam Makhachev. I mean, now that title might be open for Topuria to go and try to get his hands on. We will see. But this was a massive, massive victory right here. All right, brother. Now let's talk about a couple of these prelim fights. But folks, if you have not yet, now would be the perfect opportunity. Subscribe to the channel, share the show with your friends. You already know what time it is. But we had some really fun ones here, man. First and foremost, we have to address something. The 18-year-old Raul Rojas Jr. gets a domination win over Jay Perrin, and he ragdolled him, man. He picked him up, he put the backpack on him, and he choked him out. It was basically as simple as that. I will say that Rosas did put Perrin in a couple of bad spots, and Perrin, at the end of the day, I mean, he was able to fight out of those bad spots. So he gave Raul Rojas Jr. like a little more work than I guess a lot of people were expecting at the end of the day in terms of the grappling. But when it came to a pure grappling contest, man, I mean, this was domination. There's nothing more that we can say about this. What do you make of this domination win? Obviously, we have a star in the making right here, but my other question to you is that when you're able to just dominate the fight like that, and you never really saw a kickboxing fight, you never saw a lot of stand-up there, how replicable is this performance against some other guys that aren't? I mean, Jay Perrin, while he was tough, he was like 0-5 combined in Bellator and the UFC going into this fight. So, like, what do you think?
I'm curious to see who they're gonna pair this young kid up again, because Rosas, he has a potential to be another cash cow, but are they going to throw him to the dogs? Are they going to throw him to a striker? Are they going to throw him to another grappler? Are we going to be seeing another push going for Rosas? Because big win, yeah, but against a guy who not necessarily handpicked in Perrin, and still a very, very tough fighter. But I feel like you're right, Derek. This is one of the ones where we didn't get to see a full display, a full showing of who Rosas is as a character, or as a fighter, excuse me. And I'm curious to see where they're going to put him next, because, yeah, it was a dominant win, and it looked great. You know, submission, RNC, rear naked choke, round one, and he even called for it. It worked out exactly how his story was meant to work out. I'm just curious what they're going to do with this kid next going up, man. This dude's a senior in high school. He has a lot of room to grow. Do you take him the slow road? Do you give him the fast road? There's a lot of ups and downs. I was happy to see the win. Interested to see where we're going next. Derek, how do you feel? Are we going to see Rosas fighting a lot, or is this dude going to be one that's fighting just 3 times a year? Are we going to see output, or what do you think?
The more that he wins, I think the more the UFC will try to protect him. You know what I mean? Obviously, that's how it's going to go. So, yeah, you're going to gradually step him up, kind of the Paddy Pimblett path, in my opinion. The only thing is that it's like this dude has so much less experience. I'll just say this. This is the point. He looked so calm out there. Like, he's ready for the moment. Like, that didn't pay-per-view crowd, Vegas, that didn't faze him whatsoever. He was just ready, like, all right, I'm going to come kick this dude's ass. He brought out the sombrero, the whole nine, you know what I'm saying? It was a good time, man. It was a good time. So I'm really excited to see what's next. But for Jay Perrin, he was talking all types of crazy mess, like, this kid ain't going to do nothing to me. And then he get dominated like that. Bad luck. But also, really good spot for Rosas right there. Biggie boy, man, he got the knockout victory over your boy Chris Daukaus. At this point, this is the same thing we were saying. I think I told you, like, in the Discord chat or whatnot, but I just think for both the Daukaus brothers, a move down a weight class, if they could make it, would probably be a lot better for the longevity of their career. Do you agree?
100%, man. And even the power output, the size that Biggie boy had against Daukaus, this was a hard one to watch, man. I've been loving the Daukaus boys. Watching them both just get knocked out, finish like that, I agree, Derek. Bump it down a weight class if you can make it. Get with the nutritionist. Do what you got to do. So you're the ones dominating the fights again. It's a rough one for the Daukaus boys, man.
23 seconds, man. That's all it took. So that's, like, rough, because literally both the Daukaus brothers got knocked out this weekend. So they're not this weekend, but, like, back-to-back weekends, right? So UFC Orlando, UFC 282. So it's definitely rough, man. And they're good. They're skillful, man. It's just a matter of, like, Kyle Daukaus does not seem like he can handle the athleticism and strength of some of those big boys at 205. And then Chris Daukaus, same thing. He's fast, he's quick. But when he gets hit, these big hit, I mean, Jairzinho Rozenstruik, bro, I think we should all saw this coming. I saw it coming. I think Jairzinho, this was smash spot for him just because this dude hits like a fucking truck. But hopefully we see better results from the Daukaus brothers coming soon. Edmen Shahbazyan, he got the big win over Dalcha Lungiambula, man. I mean, listen, welcome back, Edmen. I think he was a little trigger shy, gun shy, if you will. But he still did get the second round finish against Dalcha, man. The ground and pound, get him out of there. Impressive. This dude's fast, he's sharp, and I think that a reckoning is coming back with the name Edmen Shahbazyan surrounding. What do you think?
Yeah, I was happy to see him get the win, Derek. How can you not be trigger shy when you have a tank of Dalcha Lungiambula standing against you? But great performance, man. Shahbazyan really showed that he still is the fighter that we all thought he was going to be when he really came onto the scene, you know?
100%. He says all it is a better environment, less toxic, better training. Yeah, you love to see it. You love to see it. And speaking of another fighter where you love to see the results of the performance that they had, man, like Chris Curtis, bro, like he really put it on Joaquin Buckley. But had he not got that finish, I think the story would be much different, because Buckley was picking him apart from outside, putting volume on him, wasn't hurting him really per se, but he was just outclassing him. And my question was, is this going to be a repeat of the Hermansson performance? And I was like, is Curtis just not going to throw and just going to get outpointed for 3 rounds? And you could tell it's him. It's calculating. It's downloading. Oh, you're going to throw that blind kick again? You're not going to put your hand up? Okay, catch it. Bink. Left hand down the pipe. Now, AJ, forgive me if I am incorrect. You called it a left hook Larry. I thought it was a little more of a cross. Either way, it could have been a combination of both. But I'll say Chris Curtis put it on him, man. Were you shocked when you saw that? Because it kind of came out of nowhere.
It kind of came out of nowhere, but what I noticed, and you're right, Derek, Chris Curtis really is downloading, processing, engaging in the fight that's going to happen, and really does make amazing reads. I was more surprised by the fact that it took him that long. I mean, both these dudes had big heat going into this fight. They're at each other's face. There's a lot of media attention going into this one, talking all that shit, and then they go out there and have a very calculated round one. That, to me, was surprising. But then Chris Curtis comes back, man. And yeah, like you said, Derek, I thought it was a left hook, Larry, left cross. There's not such a good nomenclature for that one as well. But when you put Buckley to sleep and you make him look like the small guy, that was kind of another thing that surprised me, man. Buckley, you're used to seeing him. Yeah, he's a shorter guy, but he's a thicker, stockier, meatier man. Where Chris Curtis went in there last night, and he was the big dude. He was the guy, not only taller, but also bigger, stouter. This is a big win and a good fight for Chris Curtis, and also a good fight for Buckley, man. I agree with you. I thought he was winning. He was pointing, getting the thing, controlling the outer distance. Good fight for both these guys. Rough to see Buckley take a nap, though.
Well, yeah, 100%. Listen, biggest win in my eyes on this entire prelim card has to be Billy Quarantillo, man. This dude over Alexander, the Great Ape Hernandez, man. Like, when you talk about you set a pace that your opponent cannot keep, that's what Billy Q does, time in and time out, man. And that's the thing. It's like, this was the big question. Can he get past the first round? If he can, he'll probably win. But Alexander Hernandez is going to give you a rough first round. And when he was able to survive, and it came close a couple times, but when he was able to survive, at that point you knew it was all Billy Q. A bloodied up Billy Q where he's just walking you down, digging to the body, big uppercut shots, man, just wearing it. I was like, oh, Billy Q, bro, let's go. Straight out of New York's finest right there. He got the job done. Rough go for Alexander Hernandez. First time in his career they just lost 2 in a row. But I think the sky is the limit for Billy Q, man. What do you think?
This was good to see Billy Q come back and have a Billy Q fight again, man. Really, like you said, digging to the body, bloodied up, coming in, putting work in. This was good, and also a good fight for Alexander Hernandez, man. This dude, as much as we expected these guys to have breakout star performances and really take off, and they kind of petered out a little bit, fizzled, if you will. This is good to see both these guys kind of come back and have a grounding fight. I was happy to see Billy Q get the dub, man.
Absolutely. And then I'll just talk about this last one, man. This was my sleeper, but I just think this dude's so impressive. TJ Brown, man. Downtown TJ Brown got the big submission victory over Eric Silva. And I said this was going to be a banger. I mean, it didn't really live up to the hype that I was really giving it. But at the end of the day, TJ Brown just puts on dominant performances over dominant performances over dominant performances. He opened up as a underdog, got the win. I think it did finish as a pick'em, minus 110 a pop. But at the end of the day, man, like, you got to put some respect on this dude's name. People got to stop doubting him. Eric Silva, this dude didn't come in with as much experience in the big show as TJ Brown, and TJ Brown really put it on him. So that was big. Don't really need too much of a comment. But the last thing that I got here for you, man, missed opportunities. Once again here, AJ, we're talking about the first fight of the night. We're talking about Cameron Saaiman. I said I would learn how to pronounce it if he got the big win, but the way his win came, I think there's still a little left to be desired. You get a win after you knee a dude illegally in the head, and I think, honestly, out of pure pressure, Steven Koslow decided, I'm going to continue to fight. He even said it. He was all like, listen, bro, I'm not trying to be a bitch right now, but like, that was rough, man. I'm a little dazed. And I honestly think that the referee, Chris Tognoni, obviously his job is just to say, can you compete or can you not compete? It's as simple as that. Did you feel that sense of pressure, AJ, that Koslow, minute by minute, every moment that passed, it's like the walls are caving in on him. And he's like, if I Aljamain Sterling my way out of this fight, I'm not going to be able to live this down. Now, what do? You could be concussed for all you know. You caught a knee while you were on your knees. It was an illegal shot. You go back, and then you get TKO'd moments after, where literally you're running away almost. You're like, I don't want to fight anymore. Was this the right move to make if you're a Steven Koslow? Do you swallow your pride and get your first UFC victory and just take the DQ win? What do you think?
Man, it's such a hard challenge because I think if you take that win like that, you're not getting a second fight from Uncle Dana. Like it's
Sheesh.
one of those ones where you might just shuffle off into the ether. Nobody knows who you are again. Yeah, you're the guy that had one fight in the UFC, but you won it on some BS, and you didn't really put the warrior effort in. Like, there's a lot to that, but at the same point, you got fucking standing TKO, bro. Take the win. Like it's a hard one to watch because as a coach, you want the dub, but you also don't want your fighter to win like that or to go out like that and to have that kind of marred his strategy or his career. But you also at the same point you don't want as Simeon how you don't want to win like that as well. So this is such a rough one, man. I think Koslow, you did what you needed to do. You go in there and you take an ass whooping, you get Sandy KO'd, but you get another fight again in the UFC and you do the bosses a favor. What do you think, Derek?
I don't think it's promised that he gets another shot in the UFC, bro. So it's a lose-lose for me right here. Like I said, missed opportunities. I think sometimes if you can't compete, it just depends on how jeopardized he was. We don't know. It looks bad. We don't know. He could have been fine. It was just like looking for a break. He could have been like, dude, I'm really hurt and I don't want to continue to fight, but I feel like I need to. Either way, big win by Cameron Saaiman. And, let's see another one. Let's see another one in the stacked bantamweight division, and we'll see what goes on from there. Now, AJ, I do think it's time that we just quickly, roughly, do a little bit of a rankings review, brother. And we don't got nothing crazy here to talk about today, because if you look at the implications of these fighters at hand, yeah, there were some ranked fighters doing what they needed to do, but like the biggest question mark here comes in two different divisions. It's first off, it's going to be the light heavyweight division, right? And then it's that middleweight division, because there's a lot going on here. But the one that I want to talk about, honestly, is the light heavyweight division. So let's talk about it, brother. So I'm actually going to move our screen. Yep, move that on over there. So you see vacant championship. It remains vacant. Yuri is at the top of the chain. Glover, Jan Blachowicz, Magomed Ankalaev. And then you get the Jamal Hills of the world right here. So we've never seen a division more open necessarily right here. The middleweight division is also very open. And then, if we're going to talk about somebody, we're going to talk about what happened to the Darren Tills. We're going to talk about the Dricus Du Plessis, all that good stuff, right? But this is the point. In the light heavyweight division, we're knowing that number 2 and number 7 are matched up. I want an early prediction. Like, do you think Glover Teixeira, given what he was able to do to Yuri Prochazka, who's a very well-rounded threat with massive power, do you think he will be able to neutralize the game of Jamal Hill?
And does Glover have the chin to withstand the crack that Jamal Hill's going to have? I think so, but the more I go back and forth about this, like I feel like Glover's going to very much depend on the the veteran mentality, the grit, the grime that the Glover has, because this dude's a savage out there. Mm-hmm. But Jamal Hill, and the thing is too, we saw Jamal Hill with the Bear Jew fight, the Paul Craig fight. Isn't that good on the ground? Where Glover is an absolute savage on the ground. So there's a lot going for this one. I'm interested to see. I think Glover gets the dub on this one. That's a very early prediction, Derek. How are you leaning right now?
So it's tough because some moments I'm Jamal Hill. I think he gets the knockout win. Other moments I say if Glover Teixeira can go toe-to-toe with Yuri for 5 rounds and arguably put it on him before getting submitted in the final round, he should be able to replicate that no problem with Jamal Hill. I mean, it would be hard-pressed for me to say Jamal Hill hits harder than Yuri Prochazka. I don't know, but I feel like that would be a tough comparison to make. But this is the reason why I bring that up in the first place. Let's say Glover Teixeira is the new champion, right? He's the champion again. Obviously, the Yuri fight is going to be lined up, but if Yuri's not ready to go, my question is, do these two fight again? Does Ankalaev get another shot? Like, where does Ankalaev even fit in this spot anymore? And give me the bold prediction, will we see Ankalaev fight in the UFC ever again?
That's interesting, especially because of the post-fight shenanigans and the press conference, and you're saying you don't have faith in the UFC anymore. You don't know if you want to fight here. So Uncle Dana is the kind of guy to be like, all right, bet, like, word, you don't want to fight for me, cool, don't fight for me. So are we going to see Ankalaev again? I think so. Will we see the Blachowicz-Ankalaev rematch? I don't think so, Derek. I think this is one of the ones you stay away from as much as possible. I kind of feel like, though, to be honest with you, I feel like Jan might get a fight for the title before Ankalaev. Is that too far of a stretch, or what do you think?
That's a massive, massive stretch, man, because if you got put on like by Ankalaev like that, you've already been submitted by Glover. Why do you get another shot? You know what I mean? I think he's still in that top 5 conversation. But let's flip the switch. Jamal Hill's the current champion somehow, some way. He gets the win over Glover Teixeira, and then he has to fight a Magomed Ankalaev. or Yuri Prochazka? I mean, I guess my ultimate question here is anybody going to be able to actually hold on to the belt? Because ever since John Jones basically left the division, this thing has been up for grabs, bouncing all over the place. So, like, who's going to be the next guy to solidify, this is my belt, this is my title reign?
It's interesting because I thought that guy was Yuri.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's still the case. But you're right, man. And you just look at this top 10, for instance, or you could do top 7 since Jamal is going to be fighting for the title. Any one of these guys can beat the other ones going forward in any kind of a fight. So this is a toss-up division, man.
Yeah.
It makes it very interesting to see.
Absolutely. And then 2, you got to take in consideration, Rakic and Prochazka both are shelved up with injuries right now. So it's really 5 guys that are just kind of shuffling around for this championship belt. I don't know, man. This is a tough one. We will see. My prediction, though, is that Magomed Ankalaev, if he does continue to fight in the UFC, he will find himself champion. I do believe that, man. With that style, it's just looking like he has all the tools, man. All the tools. So, with that being said, that was your 60-second rankings review, folks. All right, brother. This is it, man. Listen, every day I'm having gratitude for being able to do this because there's going to be 2 more episodes we will be producing this year that has to pertain directly to live fights that are going to be going down. The next card, the last card of the year, UFC Vegas 66 on December 17th. That will determine the winner of the 2022 head-to-head championship for this beautiful thing right there, the 2022 Undisputed Championship belt. It's pretty, it's sitting under the tree, it looks fantastic, and at the end of the day, AJ, there's only 4 picks that are separating us right now. Well, good news. Most likely, the next fight, which is going to be featuring Jared Cannonier and Sean Strickland, that is going to be featuring 6 fights, right? So at the end of the day, it just depends on what the picks are made, but we are still very much alive right here for one of the closest conclusions in Bloody Water Podcast history. All right, my man, fun fights, massive fights. UFC is ending in a fantastic way. We are going to ask you one more time, please subscribe if you have not yet. But AJ, I will let you basically take it from here, man. Let the people know what they need to do before we get out of here.
Well, like you said, folks, or like you said, Derek, folks, please hit the subscribe button. But I'm going to do a different thing, man. I'm going to say a big thank you going into this one. Thank y'all for the support. Thank you for going into this one. Thank you for, if you're here watching this already, we wouldn't be doing this without you. So we got to say thank you. We got to say I love you. And we, like I said, we love and appreciate all the support going forward. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, share it with your friends, do the big thing. We got one fight left. Put some green in your pocket. You already know how it goes, man. Your favorite fighter's favorite fight show, breaking it down. And like Derek said, I'm still big on this 500. I think we could. It's a bit of a stretch, yeah, but if we can get close, I'll be happy. Derek's still 475, so we're looking in there either way. We wouldn't be here without y'all, so we do got to say I love you and appreciate you, and thank you very much. Make sure you share it with your friends, though. Give it to your local fight fan. Let's get it going. Get it back to the new year going forward, and as well as this is a close fight, man. We're in a dog fight for this championship. We got on the belt on the line, man. This is a great time to make sure you subscribe and share it with your friends.
100%, folks. And yeah, I'll even take it a little bit further from there, man. Without you guys, there would be no program. I mean, we do this this is a labor of love, I guess you could say. But this is 2 years in a row where basically every week UFC MMA, it is not like NFL or like NBA or any other seasonal sport. This is a year-long thing. So we're here. We're giving you picks all year long. We are the people you can do the Fight Companion with. So thank you guys very much. But give us a thank you in return by dropping a subscribe right there, man. I don't even care about the likes at this point. I want you to comment. I want you to subscribe. And I want you to share the show with your friends. And I will let you know, for the people who do comment very nice things like, hey, man, I can't believe you guys don't have the following you should. You guys do fantastic work. We really do appreciate those comments, man. Like, it does mean a lot. So with that being said, that is all that we have for you for the recap of UFC 282. Catch us on Friday for the UFC Vegas 66 preview show. But that's it for us. Until next time, folks. Peace.